What if the most infamous scandal in Sister Wives history wasn't an accident at all? What if it wasn't a lonely woman falling for the wrong person online, but a carefully engineered collapse, designed by someone who stood to gain everything from Meri Brown's humiliation? For years, fans were told the same simple story. Meri was catfished by a stranger, embarrassed publicly, and punished by her family for trusting the wrong person. End of discussion. Except now that story is falling apart. Because a long-buried interview, a suspicious friendship, and a trail of digital breadcrumbs are exposing something far more calculated, far more sinister, and far more personal than anyone was ever meant to see. At the center of this unraveling is a name most casual viewers barely remember, but longtime fans can't ignore anymore. Kendra Pard. She wasn't just another fan who got too close. She wasn't some random online acquaintance swept up in drama. Kendra was Robyn Brown's close friend, her business partner, and someone with direct access to the Brown family at one of the most vulnerable moments in their history. And what she admitted years ago, quietly, almost desperately, changes everything about how this scandal should be understood. Because according to Kendra herself, she wasn't just watching the catfishing happen. She was in contact with the catfisher the entire time. Before the public ever knew the name Jackie Overton, before Sam Cooper became synonymous with deception, before Meri's life imploded on national television, Kendra Pard was already embedded in the Browns' inner circle. Viewers saw her briefly in early 2014 during a San Francisco shopping trip, presented innocently as a fashion consultant. But off-camera, her role went much deeper. Robyn publicly acknowledged her on social media, thanking her repeatedly, calling her our friend and our business partner. Janelle chimed in too, praising Kendra's fashion advice and confirming her active involvement in the family's professional projects. This wasn't proximity by accident. This was trust. Kendra was tied directly to the family's online boutique, Sister Wives Closet, designing merchandise and handling business arrangements. She knew the dynamics between the wives. She understood the hierarchy, the insecurities, the unspoken resentments. Most importantly, she had Robyn's ear, and Robyn had hers. And fans had already been whispering for years that Robyn, the newest wife turned legal wife, had quietly maneuvered herself into power while the others lost ground one by one. Then Meri gave up her legal marriage. In December 2014, Meri divorced Cody so he could legally marry Robyn and adopt Robyn's children. Publicly, it was framed as selfless, noble, a sacrifice for the family. But emotionally, it left Meri exposed, destabilized, and grieving a status she'd held for decades. She was no longer the first wife in any meaningful sense. And just 3 months later, right as that loss settled in, someone appeared in her life who seemed to see her, understand her, and make her feel chosen again. Sam Cooper. What Meri didn't know, and what changes the entire narrative, is that Sam didn't come into her life alone. He arrived already validated, already vouched for, already framed as real by someone Meri trusted. Because according to multiple reports, Meri only fully lowered her guard after Kendra Pard assured her that Sam was authentic. Kendra claimed she had video chatted with him, claimed he was real, claimed she knew him. Why does that matter? Because Meri wouldn't have trusted a stranger, but she would have trusted Robyn's close friend. That single endorsement erased Meri's last doubts. And from there, the emotional manipulation accelerated. Kendra didn't just privately reassure Meri, she publicly defended Sam. She ran Facebook groups where Sam answered questions. She positioned herself as a bridge between Meri and this mysterious man who seemed heartbreakingly devoted. Even after the scandal broke and Jackie Overton was exposed as the person behind Sam, Kendra continued insisting he was real. Until she didn't. In July of 2015, months after the catfishing scandal exploded publicly, Kendra sat down for a recorded interview with investigator Brad Fanner. That interview was quietly buried, rarely discussed in full, and largely ignored by mainstream coverage. But what Kendra said in that conversation is explosive, because it contradicts everything the public was led to believe. She admitted she had been in contact with Jackie Overton from the very beginning, not after the fact. not accidentally. From the start, Kendra explained that she first encountered Jackie in a Sister Wives Facebook group, where Jackie was using another persona, Lindsay Jackson, claiming to be a hacker capable of infiltrating private conversations. From day one, Kendra said, Lindsay made it clear that she needed to help convince people Sam Cooper was real. And if she didn't, there would be consequences. According to Kendra, those consequences included threats of harm, not just to her but to the Brown family. That changes the entire frame of the story. Because now the question isn't just whether Meri was catfished, but why Robyn's closest friend was the one positioned to legitimize the lie. Why Jackie didn't randomly stumble onto Meri, but instead recruited someone with insider access. Someone who could provide credibility. Someone who could whisper, "He's real," at exactly the moment Meri needed reassurance most. Kendra claimed she was operating under fear, that she was coerced, that she had no choice but to play along. But her own words reveal something far more complicated, and far more troubling. Because even as she said she was afraid, she also admitted she suspected Sam wasn't real almost immediately. She noticed patterns, similar speech habits, identical laughs, accents that slipped. Jackie's supposed Australian voice dissolving into something distinctly American when emotions ran high. She spoke to Sam on the phone, but the calls always came through Lindsay's number. She interacted with multiple personas, Chelsea, possibly Peyton, each one reinforcing the illusion, each one pointing back to the same source. And still, Kendra continued. She hosted forums. She defended Sam publicly. She helped manufacture proof. She even described a Skype call with a man claiming to be Sam, so blurry and obscured that she believed Jackie might have hired someone to appear on camera just long enough to maintain the illusion of physical existence. Think about that. Think about the planning, the resources, the intent required to go that far. This wasn't some bored scammer improvising. This was an operation. Jackie allegedly instructed Kendra to lie about Sam visiting her in the hospital, to release a photoshopped image as proof. And Kendra complied. Not once, repeatedly, which raises the question that haunts this entire story. At what point does fear turn into participation? Kendra later claimed Jackie hacked her social media accounts and posted statements under her name insisting Sam was real. But even that explanation doesn't fully account for the level of involvement, the consistency of the defense, or what happened after the truth came out. Because when the catfishing was exposed, Kendra didn't run from Jackie. She aligned with her. She and Jackie went on a Facebook rampage, doubling down on the lie, insisting Sam existed, insisting Meri had been in love with a real man. Once you step back and look at the full picture, it becomes impossible to see the catfishing scandal as a contained incident between Meri Brown and an online predator. The ripple effects spread outward in every direction, touching friendships, finances, family alliances, and power structures inside the Brown household. And the deeper you go, the clearer it becomes that Meri wasn't just deceived. She was isolated, discredited, and strategically dismantled in ways that benefited very specific people. After Kendra Pard's interview surfaced, even briefly, many fans expected the Browns to defend her if she truly was a victim of Jackie Overton's threats. Instead, the opposite happened. The family severed all ties with Kendra completely. No soft distancing. No quiet fading away. She was cut off, professionally, personally, and publicly. And that reaction raised more questions than it answered. Because if Kendra had simply been another casualty of Jackie's manipulation, why would her presence be so dangerous to the family that she needed to be erased from their lives entirely? Before the scandal, Kendra had been one of the Browns' loudest defenders. On social media, she aggressively protected them from criticism, particularly Robyn. Anyone who questioned Robyn's motives or behavior was shut down, mocked, or bullied into silence. Observers described her tactics as tyrannical. She didn't just defend, she dominated. Her loyalty appeared absolute. She acted less like a casual friend and more like a gatekeeper, someone deeply invested in controlling the narrative around the family, especially around Robyn's image. Then everything flipped. After the catfishing scandal became public knowledge and the family distanced themselves, Kendra's tone changed dramatically. She began speaking openly to media outlets about dysfunction within the Brown family. She accused Robyn of financial wrongdoing, including tax-related disputes involving money sent for t-shirt designs. She went from protector to accuser almost overnight. And that kind of reversal doesn't happen without a fracture. Either a betrayal so deep it rewired her loyalties, or a calculated effort to distance herself from a situation that was becoming legally and publicly dangerous. The financial angle matters more than it initially appears. Kendra and Robyn weren't just friends. They were business partners. The sister wives' closet venture connected them financially, and when disputes arose over money, particularly the claim that over $25,000 sent to Kendra was income rather than payment, it suggested there were underlying tensions long before the catfishing scandal exploded. Financial dependence, resentment, or leverage can complicate any relationship. Add in threats, secrets, and public humiliation, and the lines between victim and accomplice begin to blur. But the most unsettling detail is what Kendra did after the truth was already out. Even after Jackie Overton was exposed as the sole operator behind Sam Cooper, Kendra continued to insist Sam was real. She didn't back away. She doubled down. She co-ran Facebook groups where Sam answered questions. She defended the legitimacy of Meri's relationship with a man who, by all available evidence, did not exist. That behavior alone undermines her claim that she was merely afraid and coerced. Because fear explains silence, but it doesn't explain active participation once the threat is supposedly gone. This is where many fans believe Kendra's interview served a different purpose entirely. Not as a confession but as insurance. By framing herself as someone under constant threat, by painting Jackie as violent, unstable, capable of murder, Kendra positioned herself as another victim rather than someone who knowingly facilitated the deception. It's a powerful narrative. It explains her behavior without requiring accountability, creates sympathy, and it provides plausible deniability if law enforcement or civil liability ever entered the picture. But that narrative collapses when you examine the choices she made when no one was forcing her. Because the catfishing didn't just destroy Meri's reputation. It fundamentally altered how Cody treated her. Before the scandal, their marriage was distant but intact. Afterward, Cody's contempt became permanent. He openly expressed disgust. He described her actions as unforgivable. He emotionally abandoned her while insisting the damage was entirely her fault, even though the man she cheated with never existed. That shift didn't happen in a vacuum. It was fueled by information, explicit photos, voicemails, emotional confessions. And Meri later revealed that details she shared privately with Robyn somehow made their way to Cody. Details that magnified the betrayal and erased any remaining empathy. That's the moment the conspiracy tightens. Because if Robyn was relaying Meri's private confessions to Cody, she wasn't a neutral party. She was shaping the narrative. She was controlling how Cody perceived Meri's actions, emphasizing humiliation and sexual betrayal while minimizing Meri's loneliness, vulnerability, and emotional neglect. And if that information also flowed to Jackie through Kendra, then the manipulation became surgical. Jackie knew exactly what Meri needed to hear, exactly what she feared, exactly how to pull her deeper. The emotional precision of the catfishing is one of the strongest indicators that this wasn't random. Jackie didn't just flatter Meri, she mirrored her pain. She responded to insecurities that hadn't been publicly aired. She reassured Meri at moments when her confidence wavered. That level of emotional accuracy is almost impossible without insider insight. And the person with the clearest access to that insight was Robyn. The timing continues to haunt the narrative. Meri's legal divorce happened in December 2014. The catfishing intensified in early 2015. Within months, Meri's standing in the family was annihilated. Her role as first wife was effectively erased. Robyn, newly installed as the legal wife, faced no competition. Christine and Janelle remained, but Meri, the only wife who once held legal authority, was neutralized. That outcome benefited one person more than anyone else. And yet Robyn has never publicly addressed the conspiracy theories. She has never explained how her close friend became the person who validated the catfish. She has never clarified how Meri's private conversations leaked. She has never answered why Kendra went from trusted ally to complete exile. Silence in this context isn't neutral. Strategic. What makes this even darker is the psychological aftermath for Meri. She spent nearly a decade being punished for a deception she didn't orchestrate. She endured emotional neglect, public shaming, and isolation within a family she had already sacrificed her legal marriage for. Every attempt at reconciliation was met with rejection. Every expression of pain was reframed as guilt. And all of it rested on the assumption that she had betrayed Cody for another man. A man who never existed. When Meri finally left in 2023, she didn't just walk away from a marriage. She walked away from years of gaslighting, from a family structure that used her lowest moment as justification to discard her. And only now, with distance and clarity, is she beginning to articulate the betrayals that occurred behind the scenes. Betrayals that implicate people she once trusted implicitly. The absence of legal consequences for Jackie Overton also raises uncomfortable questions. Once Meri was effectively removed from the center of the family, the shift in power inside the Brown household became impossible to ignore. What had once been a complicated but relatively balanced structure tilted sharply. And the pattern that followed makes the catfishing scandal look less like an isolated betrayal and more like the opening act in a slow, methodical consolidation of control. Because what happened to Christine and Janelle afterward mirrors Meri's downfall in unsettling ways. Minus the catfish, but not the manipulation. Christine didn't need an online scandal to be pushed out. Her removal came through emotional erosion. Years of being dismissed, minimized, and treated as expendable finally reached a breaking point when she realized that her needs would never matter as long as Robyn's came first. The favoritism was no longer subtle. Cody spent most of his time at Robyn's house. Decisions revolved around her comfort. Her children were prioritized. And when Christine finally spoke up, she was framed as selfish, dramatic, and unwilling to be a team player. Sound familiar? Janelle's unraveling followed a similar trajectory, just quieter and more pragmatic. Financial disagreements, housing disputes, and growing resentment over how resources were distributed made it clear that her independence was no longer tolerated. When she resisted falling fully in line, she too was emotionally iced out. What's striking is that both women began losing their standing only after Meri had already been neutralized. Without Meri as a counterbalance, Robyn no longer needed to compete. The hierarchy was no longer theoretical, it was absolute. This is where the catfishing scandal becomes foundational rather than incidental. Because Meri's humiliation established a precedent. Step out of line, and your credibility can be destroyed beyond repair. Whether through scandal, emotional abandonment, or financial pressure, the outcome was the same. Isolation, public blame, an eventual exit. Robyn, meanwhile, maintained her carefully curated image. She cried. She claimed confusion. She positioned herself as the peacemaker who just wanted everyone to get along. But her actions consistently told a different story. She had access to information no one else did. She controlled what Cody heard and when he heard it. She framed conflicts in ways that always aligned with her interests, even when the fallout devastated the other wives. And this is where Meri's later revelation becomes even more chilling. When Meri admitted that private conversations she had with Robyn were leaked, not just to Cody but somehow to Jackie Overton, the implications were staggering. That wasn't gossip. That was strategy. Information is power. And Meri's emotional vulnerability became a tool used against her at precisely the moment she was most fragile. Every doubt she expressed, every fear she confided, every admission of loneliness could be repurposed. To deepen the catfishing, to justify Cody's withdrawal, and to cement Meri's disgrace. The genius of the operation, if that's what it was, lies in its deniability. No single action proves intent. No single conversation confirms orchestration. But when the same person consistently benefits from the collapse of others, And when those collapses follow similar emotional patterns, it stops looking accidental. Robyn didn't need to tell Jackie what to do. She didn't need to issue instructions. All she needed was proximity, access, and silence. Kendra bridged the gap. Jackie executed the manipulation. And Meri absorbed the damage. Kendra's role becomes even more suspicious when you consider how aggressively she defended Robyn before the scandal. Her online behavior wasn't passive support. It was enforcement. She policed criticism. She controlled fan spaces. She shut down dissent. That kind of loyalty doesn't develop overnight. And it doesn't disappear without consequence. When the family severed ties with her, it wasn't just distancing. It was containment. A liability had become too visible. And yet, Kendra didn't vanish quietly. She spoke just enough to muddy the waters, just enough to recast herself as a victim, but never enough to fully implicate anyone else. Her interview with Brad Fanner is careful, emotional, disturbing, but selective. She paints Jackie as monstrous, herself as terrified, and the Browns as unaware. It's a story that explains everything without accusing anyone who might still hold power. Except the facts don't fully cooperate. Because if Kendra was truly trying to expose Jackie, why continue validating Sam after the truth was known? Why fabricate hospital visits? Why release doctored images? Why co-host spaces where the lie lived on? Those aren't the actions of someone trying to shut down a scam. Those are the actions of someone trying to control the fallout. And controlling the fallout was critical. Because once the public accepted that Meri had been emotionally involved with a real man, even briefly, the narrative shifted from victimhood to betrayal. Meri wasn't just fooled. She was framed as unfaithful. That distinction mattered enormously inside a family governed by moral hierarchy. It gave Cody justification to emotionally abandon her without appearing cruel. It gave Robyn moral high ground without saying a word. Meri became radioactive. For years, she tried to claw her way back. She apologized. She accepted blame. She internalized shame. She allowed herself to be punished because she believed she deserved it. And all the while, the truth that she had been targeted during a moment of profound vulnerability, potentially with insider involvement, remained buried beneath layers of silence and misdirection. The psychological damage of that kind of betrayal is difficult to overstate. Being manipulated by a stranger is traumatic enough. Being manipulated while believing the people closest to you are protecting you is devastating. And realizing years later that those same people may have been complicit, or at least opportunistic, rewrites your entire sense of reality. That's why Meri's recent comments hit so hard. She no longer speaks like someone seeking approval. She speaks like someone reclaiming her narrative. And every time she hints at breached trust, at conversations shared without consent, at feeling set up rather than supported, it chips away at the sanitized version of events viewers were fed for nearly a decade. The family's refusal to address these claims directly only deepens suspicion. There has been no transparent timeline. No acknowledgement of Kendra's role. No explanation for the information leaks. No attempt to clarify how a catfish managed to access such precise emotional insight. Instead, there is avoidance, deflection, and continued framing of Meri as the root cause of her own suffering. But patterns don't lie. Meri falls first, publicly shamed, emotionally discarded. Christine follows, emotionally starved, labeled disloyal. Janelle exits, financially sidelined, treated as expendable. And through it all, Robyn remains. Not untouched, but unchallenged. That's what makes the catfishing scandal more than gossip. It's a case study in how emotional manipulation, information control, and strategic silence can dismantle lives without leaving fingerprints. It shows how someone can orchestrate outcomes while appearing passive. How power can be exercised without ever being acknowledged. By the time Meri finally walked away in 2023, the damage had already been done. Not just to her marriage, but to her sense of self, her credibility, and her understanding of the people she once believed were her safest allies. What the catfishing scandal ultimately accomplished was not simply embarrassment or heartbreak. It rewrote Meri's identity within the family. She went from foundational wife to cautionary tale, from partner to problem. And that transformation did not happen organically. It was cultivated, reinforced, and preserved for years. One of the most disturbing aspects of this entire saga is how effectively accountability was avoided. Jackie Overton, the architect of the catfishing, never faced visible legal consequences. Despite allegations of threats, impersonation, harassment, and psychological manipulation, there was no prosecution, no courtroom reckoning, no public unraveling of how deeply the deception ran. And in a case this extreme, that absence is not neutral. It suggests that exposure itself posed a risk, perhaps not just to Jackie, but to anyone whose communications, relationships, or foreknowledge might have come under scrutiny. Because a legal process would have demanded records, messages, timelines. It would have required sworn testimony about who spoke to whom, when, and about what. It would have pulled Kendra Pard's communications into evidence. It would have examined her relationship with Robyn. And it would have raised the question no one seemed willing to answer publicly. How did a catfish gain such precise emotional access to Meri Brown at exactly the right moment? The silence protected more than one person. Robyn's continued refusal to address these questions directly has become, in itself, a statement. Over the years, she has carefully avoided engaging with the conspiracy theories, never confirming, never denying, never clarifying. She has allowed the narrative to remain focused on Meri's mistake, rather than on how that mistake was facilitated, magnified, and weaponized. And as long as the conversation stays centered on Meri's supposed betrayal, Robyn's role remains obscured. But Meri's own words have begun to shift that balance. Her admission that private conversations with Robyn were leaked is the closest thing to a smoking gun this story may ever have. Because trust, once broken at that level, reframes everything that came before and everything that followed. It means Meri wasn't just emotionally abandoned. She was exposed. Her vulnerabilities were not protected. They were circulated. And those revelations didn't just harm her relationship with Cody. They fed the very deception that destroyed her standing. The psychological cruelty of that cannot be overstated. Meri spent years believing she was being punished for falling in love with another man, when in reality she had been emotionally groomed by a fabrication, validated by someone she trusted, and then condemned by the people who benefited most from her downfall. That kind of betrayal doesn't just wound. It disorients. It makes you doubt your judgment, your memory, your worth. It trains you to accept blame for things you did not engineer and outcomes you did not choose. And that's why this story still matters. Because it exposes how power operates quietly. How manipulation doesn't always look like aggression. How someone can dismantle another person's life without ever raising their voice or making a visible move. It shows how information can be more destructive than action. How timing can be more lethal than intent. And how silence can be the most effective shield of all. The catfishing scandal didn't just remove Meri from her position in the family. Created a blueprint. After Meri was neutralized, Christine and Janelle became easier to dismiss. Their departures were framed as personal failings rather than responses to a system that no longer valued them. And by the time the dust settled, Robyn stood alone, not as the villain in the official narrative, but as the only wife left standing. That outcome did not happen by chance. Whether Robyn actively orchestrated the catfishing or simply recognized an opportunity and allowed it to run its course may never be definitively proven. But intent does not change impact. And impact is undeniable. Meri lost her marriage, her status, and nearly a decade of her life to shame and isolation. Jackie vanished without consequence. Kendra retreated into obscurity after reshaping her role as victim rather than participant. And the family moved on, never publicly interrogating how deeply the betrayal truly ran. What remains is the pattern. A vulnerable moment exploited. A trusted intermediary used. Private information leaked. A rival disgraced. Power shift locked in place. That is not the anatomy of coincidence. That is the anatomy of control. And perhaps the most haunting